Welcome to No Straight Lines, the podcast that gets real about performance, resilience, and what it really takes to grow, lead, and thrive. This isn't just about the wins, it's about the work, the grit, the setbacks, and the strength to keep going when things go wrong. I'm Lawrence Windmill, your host, an entrepreneur, and someone who's learned resilience through facing some of life's toughest moments. Each week I sit down with leaders from the world of business, sport, entertainment, and the community to unpack the moments that shaped them, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Because success, it's never a straight line. This is No Straight Lines, stories of the unbreakable. We're good to go. Dr. Rosie Oretti, welcome to No Straight Lines.
Thank you very much.
Stories of the unbreakable. So thanks for coming along today. We met at an event, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago, and we've got mutual acquaintances within the business world. And we were having a chat, and you were telling me about your business, which you can tell us a lot more about the business through the course of this interview. But today is not just a chat about the business, it's about your journey.
Sure.
What you've been doing basically since, I suppose, all the way back in terms of growing up, values, parents, those moments that sort of defined you. And I know that what you're going to tell us about your background prior to business was medicine, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
So how did that start?
I always think of myself actually as very fortunate because I was one of those kids who just knew what they wanted to do. So apart from the little phase where I thought I was going to be a ballerina, it was always going to be a doctor. And I don't know where that came from because none of my family were in medicine, or either parent's side. So I was the first sort of doctor. But I loved school, I loved learning, but in particular science. And I think it went a little bit more than that. It was just, it just had meaning to me. And I wanted to do something for other people. And I think most people that end up in nursing or medicine are there because they want to make a difference and have that sort of caring side to them. So it was a beautiful balance of fueling my brain because obviously I loved learning and medicine's an amazing science career to go into. You're always learning. And then you have that patient contact as well, which I loved.
Well, I found fascinating when I was doing some research and looking you up, shall I say. I was fascinated to find that line which you just referenced to, which is that as a child growing up in school, 'cause I think your parents were involved in hospitality, weren't they?
They were, yeah.
And you made reference to the fact that you loved learning and you found learning easy.
I did.
Which was, and you mentioned physics, and we all find our way in life, but I think to have that natural sort of passion and that appetite, if you like, for learning, to go into medicine, I would have thought that's so important because
because you're always there's always exams.
Yes,
even after you've qualified, you're training then into a certain specialty, and there's exams all the way. Yeah. And then you only become a consultant many years later if you choose to go down that path. And then even when you're on the job. Yeah. We're having annual appraisals where we've got to demonstrate that we're still learning and keeping. I mean, medicine's always changing. Yeah. I mean, now I would worry about going back because even since the time I've retired, there have been huge advances, which is great.
So what was in the world of medicine, what was your specialist then? Were you, and forgive me if I'm wrong, correct me, consultant psychiatrist?
That's right, yeah.
So what took you in that direction?
So I fascinated myself about this because actually it wasn't my career choice.
Right.
So I definitely knew I didn't want to be a GP. I wanted to do hospital medicine, and I was either going to be a general physician or neurology. Actually, I was interested in, and I never really contemplated psychiatry. I did enjoy my placement in psychiatry. And the team were great, and I actually was part of a paper that we wrote because at the time I was training in London, HIV was very prominent. Wow. And we were starting to see young men with psychosis related to their HIV, and we had a case series, and they incorporated me even as a medical student into that paper. Wow. So I think there was a strong connection with psychiatry, even though I wasn't sort of conscious of it. And that's why I said, really, I think that there was more going on, basically, that I was aware of. But I always put it down to opportunity. So what happened is I met my husband to be in med school in London. He was Welsh. And I came back to Wales. I wanted to be with him. And as a outsider to where I wasn't a Welsh graduate, it was quite difficult to get onto the medicine rotation.
Really?
So a psychiatry rotation came up, and I thought, well, I'll do it for 6 months, get my foot in the door, so to speak, and then I'll apply for medical physician jobs. But anyway, I joined the psyche rotation, and I loved it. And I never stopped after that. I stayed doing psychiatry.
You married a Welshman who's, I'm assuming, a doctor, came out of medical school. You moved to Wales, I think, in 1989.
That's it.
But in terms of your first post as a consultant psychiatrist, that came 10 years later.
10 years later.
So that just tells us the amount of effort and work learning and studying that you've got to do to get to that level.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been done quicker, but I decided to do I was approached by the professor of psychiatry who asked me if I would do a 3-year research project. Yeah. Which was on the molecular biology, if you like, of alcohol addiction. And that's what I did. So I had a MRC fellowship for 3 years. I was lab-based for 3 years. I was still doing clinical work as well, because you have to keep your hand in. But that kind of meant my journey to consultant was longer. But then that fueled my interest in addictions. And so when I did become a consultant, it was a joint post between general psychiatry and addiction, or substance misuse as it's called. And then after my maternity leave, I went purely into substance misuse, and then that was my sort of ongoing specialty.
And I know mental health is at the top of the agenda, the news agenda these days. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's more aware of it, I think. And I know it affects people from all walks of life, including myself. I've had issues that I've had to deal with. But from a practicing psychiatrist, where you're working with patients day in, day out, and again, and you're for 1 minute, expect you to sort of allude to any particular individual, but you must have seen some really traumatic scenarios in terms of patients with addictions and all sorts of things. What impact does that have on you and your mental health?
I think that's where the learning comes in to protect yourself. I'm no good to anybody if I can't manage that. And so I got very good at learning to be in the moment with the patient and totally get their pain, but then be able to almost like compartmentalize it. You have to. It's a survival technique. And so when I'd go home, I'm not saying I was brilliant at it. I often brought work home. Yeah. It's impossible not to be going over things in your head. But I guess I try to minimize that as much as possible. But what it did show to me, I think, because I believe genuinely that emotional distress is the most painful thing to manage and deal with, beyond physical pain. And I had a joy of life then, because I always felt, I'm so lucky. So no matter what happened to me in my personal life, I always felt it could be worse. And because I'd seen it, it wasn't a theoretical could be worse.
You knew it could be worse.
I knew it could be worse. And so if I ever felt sorry for myself, or, a bit wanted to wallow in a bit of what was going on for me, I'd give myself a bit of a shake up and say, well,
Good. In one of the interviews we've done recently, we talked about, and it's the theme of this podcast as well, it's about people's journey, it's about the highs, the successes, the defining moments, the setbacks, how you get back from certain situations, resilience, etc. And we were chatting about it in one of the previous podcasts. And I made reference to the fact that the question was posed to me about resilience. Can you learn it? And my own view on it is yes, you can. By certain behaviours you adopt once you start to understand your own person, who you are. And it's interesting, I never realised that you could do that until I found myself in a difficult situation not so long ago. And then I did my own research and sought help and found ways of dealing with my situation. Without it, You know, because there's no magic pill, is there, Rosie?
No. Well, there's mental illness.
Yeah.
You know, and they are very defined conditions that have a genetic basis potentially, and you know, some biochemical reason, and they do respond to medical intervention, as in medication, psychosis like schizophrenia, manic depression. But then beyond that, there's a lot of, and then bipolar can be purely depression, depressive illness, anxiety disorders. I mean, a lot of mental illness is illness, but then there is also conditions that are more sort of psychological, so adjustments, stress reactions, trauma. You know, those are more how we as human beings respond to situations, and that's more down to our personal traits, really.
It's interesting when you said that you learned yourself how to compartmentalize situations, which I suppose you have to do as a psychiatrist, seeing these experiences. I had another conversation with a psychologist not so long ago, and she touched on the same point, particularly in the area of trauma. And she described it as having a book, the front cover of the book and the back end of the book, and putting this trauma into that book in various chapters, if you like, in pages, and being able to then, after processing it and running through the various events on a timeline, and then reversing it, and then accelerating it forward, and then accelerating it back, and then eventually being able to close the book and say, okay, it's done, and it'll never go away, but it's over there on the bookshelf. And I found that fascinating. And during that conversation, that helped me sort of compartmentalize some of the circumstances that had affected me and the way I was thinking.
Yeah.
So I completely get what you say. Yes. I'm also fascinated on a lighter note. And again, it's there in writing that you've written on a bio that I think that your dad is Italian. Have I got that right?
That's right.
And your mum, she Irish?
Irish.
Yeah, okay, all right. And between them, you referred to them as entrepreneurs in their own right, because they started off as waiters or waitresses in hospitality.
Waitress. Yeah.
And your dad, he ended up running a chain of hotels or a hotel or whatever, or your parents between them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I mean, the contrast between medics and that is great. But you said that what that demonstrated was great work ethic, values.
Totally.
Etc.
I mean, they didn't have any money. You know, I clearly remember that. And they worked really hard. And from my dad was, self-taught. Neither of them had any formal education.
Taught himself English, I think.
Yeah. He came over to London. He landed and, he couldn't speak English.
Yeah.
So he'd spent, I think, a year as they're conscribed into the Italian army for a year. And then, he decided to come over to England, London being, I presume, the golden city at that time, and with a friend. And, taught himself English and worked his way up, basically, from a waiter. And that's, at the time, I don't think I really appreciated. And I knew my dad was bright. He'd do the Guardian crossword. He was up on politics,
Wow.
He was charming. Very Italian.
Typical Italian.
He was, honestly, and, always immaculately dressed and presented and always very sociable and hospitable. And my mum was a contrast to that, but she was there behind the scenes. And again, I didn't necessarily appreciate that when you're growing up, that, you need that behind the scenes. Yeah. So my dad was able to flourish. My mum brought the three of us up, really. I don't remember my dad being very active in that role. It's quite traditional.
Different time, wasn't it?
Different time, and they were very traditional. Dad did this, Mum did that, But I think their work ethic, it's obviously, and you role model, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
From a young age.
Did you work in the business?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Oh, I don't think I had much choice. But again, so I was waitressing myself, a Saturday job. I can't remember what age, but it was definitely sort of when I was still in school. In one of the hotels, Dad was sort of... managing.
This is in London, obviously. Is it not?
Well, we'd moved around a lot, actually.
Okay.
So by this time was up north. We'd spent quite a lot of years up north. London, I wanted to go to med school in London. And then all through the summer holidays, Christmas holidays, work. But I earned money, and I was one of the few that came out of university without any debts.
I did. I think that's amazing. And listen, I know we're in different times, different worlds, different generations, but my son's been through university and he's come out with a mountain of debt. Right? But the work ethic, you obviously worked right the way through university.
And I was expected to work. I mean, let's put it that way. I did the same job as the other waitresses, but I was expected to be better. Yeah. So he'd always put me on the shitty shifts, if I can use that word, like Christmas morning. Yay. Wow. New Year's Day morning. Yay. But I got up and I got there and he knew I would. And that's the difference. So you could always rely on me. And I think that is it. Like kids today, I'm going to have an old rant here, show my age. But,
you're allowed.
Isn't it funny? I would never dream not turning up for work or being late for work. Or it was instilled in me from that young age.
I get it completely. It's no coincidence, and I'm not going to sort of backtrack and talk about previous interviews, but that narrative from some of the guests that we've spoken to is exactly the same. From the generation perspective, they work.
Yes.
One guy in particular says, you just keep turning up. Yeah. You're consistent, you're reliable, keep turning up. That's been the sort of line that's run through his life. You've demonstrated that. I'm focusing on hospitality because I grew up in hospitality. So my mum and dad, they had bars, restaurants, hotels. And it's interesting that you mentioned you had the shitty job. So did I. I had to clean the toilets on a daily basis. At a time when people...
Characterability.
Oh my gosh. And I had to restock the bar on the weekends and jobs before I went to school. But I had no choice. I had to keep turning up. And I do think that it prepares you really, for what's ahead. So it prepared you. You went on and graduated and carved yourself out a brilliant medical career.
Because when like medical students today, they work to rule almost. Well, I'm not saying it's wrong, but the amount of hours that we had to at the on-call and it was crazy. And it was a lot, and but I was probably more prepared for it because of what I'd done before. But it was tough.
Yeah, it's interesting the comparisons. And you mentioned medical students, doctors, young doctors. I think they're in the news a lot, aren't they? Yeah. In terms of wages and
much more militant than we ever were.
I think so.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing because, to be honest, the NHS will just take what you want to give. Yeah. And if I have any regrets, it's that I did not give myself the time I should have had because it was full on, and you get into that mindset of you're needed. You have got to put these hours in, but you were never paid for them. And in the end, are you really appreciated? You make personal sacrifices. I mean, I had a young son. And I look back and, there were days, sports days or, other events that I missed, I'll never get back because, I had that drive. I just, people depended on me.
And it's not to say that obviously this is not a diss or a sort of, it's not a comparison against where we are today as to where we are then. I think the key point is we're in different times. Aren't we?
Yeah.
And we think about things in different ways. I laugh a lot because I've got grandchildren, try and reach out to them by telephone, and they'll send me a WhatsApp message saying, what do you want? Can you pick up the phone,
please? They don't talk these days.
But what do you want? They don't speak. So things are very, very different.
It is. Yeah.
So you came to Wales, and you had a very successful career in Wales. I'm going to ask you some questions which may be private and personal to you. And if you don't want to answer those questions, then that's fine. But you, again, make reference to it in your backstory. Work and career was important to you, but also children and being a mother was important. But there were some challenges there, weren't there? You went through, was it 3 rounds of IVF?
Yeah. I have to say that was the hardest time of my life because I never thought I was going to be a mother. Yeah. And that broke me. So.
And did it break you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and my marriage didn't survive.
Right.
Because it is a roller coaster, IVF, it really is. And because we were 3 rounds in and then it happened, which was a miracle.
Yeah.
But within a year, we split up. You know, I think it's very tough to keep going as a couple.
Yeah.
There wasn't one specific thing. I think it's just the stress that you're under. You know, it is physically for me as well as psychologically.
And it must have been massive. And these are personal stories. But again, you know, you've got this brilliant work ethic. You've carved out this great career. You've relocated to Wales. And then all of a sudden something becomes more challenging than you ever anticipated. And the amount of pressure that's put on you as a person, your relationship. It's interesting you use the word broken. So where did the resilience come from? How did you get back? How did you rebuild your life after that? You know, you obviously, your son came along, the marriage ended.
I think my son saved me in a way. I really do, because I never imagined that I would be, by then, sort of late 30s and getting divorced and with a young child. So, yeah, I think that having him, because it was something I really, really wanted anyway, as all children are precious, but I'd fought hard for him. And, yeah, I think he saved me. And life got back into just a different routine eventually. I mean, I was on my own for 5 years. I met my current partner then. I was still single parenting for many years because Craig worked away.
Yes.
He didn't have local work. But yeah, Joe's the joy of my life. And if people ask me what was my greatest achievement, for me it is having Joe. Because all the academic stuff is fine. But I don't put any store by that, really, to be honest. My biggest achievement was becoming a mum, and it's a job that I've absolutely adored. And he is a fabulous human being. So I did a good job despite everything.
What is he doing now, Joe?
Oh, well, here's the funny bit. He's a med student. But
why am I so surprised?
Yes.
I thought you were going to tell me that he was following his grandfather and running a bar somewhere. You know.
I don't think he'll stay in medicine, though. This is why I laugh, because he's on a gap year at the moment with his girlfriend. So he's found it very tough. And they're travelling for a year. They're in Bali at the moment, but they've been, all over sort of Asia and whatever. So he's got to make a decision before, I think it's September, whether they're going to both, because his girlfriend's a med student as well, whether they're both going to come back and start again. But my feeling is he won't.
Okay.
But I've made it clear that that's okay. Because for me, for Joe, the academic bit is important, and he's a bright boy, so I don't have any worries about that. But if it's not his passion and it's not what he wants to do, and I don't think it is, I think he's done it because maybe, not that I've ever felt a pressure, but he's seen me, seen his dad. He knows he's got the brains to do it, but I just don't think he's got the passion, and I think you have to have that to do medicine.
I agree with you.
So I don't think he'll continue. But he'll be all right.
But there you go. You're his mum, and I'm a parent as well. And all you ever want is for your children to be okay. You want them to do well. You want them to have security, stability, and do the nice things in life. But I think you're not going to give a lesson about parenting to anybody. But you have to respect that they're grown people with their own choices.
Exactly.
And as long as they're happy.
Oh, God, I would never want to pressurise them into doing something.
Happy and well, I think.
Totally, yeah. See, so his dad is very academic. He's a professor. And, he was always very, very academic, more so than me. But because of maybe just me, but also being in psychiatry, I always did the other side of it. I was always more impressed with Joe's social skills. Yes. I wanted him to be kind, thoughtful. All those softer skills, good communicator.
Though, aren't they?
And Joe has them.
Will he answer the telephone if I ring him?
No.
He'll
WhatsApp and go, is it urgent? Yeah, no.
But the social skills are so important. COVID came, and COVID did enormous damage on society as a whole, I think.
Yeah.
And the kids in particular who were learning, going through school, college, university. They missed out big time, and it had a massive impact in terms of mental health, I suppose, and missing out, particularly those in university. They've missed out on the university experience as such. But it for me was interesting, and this came out when I met you a few weeks ago and had that conversation over, I think it may have been a glass of wine or a glass of water, I can't remember. But you eventually retired from medicine, and all of these events that have gone on in your life, and by accident, I think it may have been during COVID, you found yourself volunteering in a homelessness kitchen or
coffee
cafe or coffee shop or whatever. And I suppose, being a medic, you saw something and you questioned something that was going on, a process that was going on in that shop that has potentially changed your life.
I know, that is the question, because I just saw, I mean, obviously it was never on my radar before, but when I saw them knocking out all the coffee,
right,
and I just, blimey, what do you do with all your coffee at the end of the day?
And these are the coffee grounds.
Yeah, you know, the little puck things that they knock out after they've made your coffee. And when you're working there, you get to realise they go into these big sort of tanks. And I'm just inquisitive. So I just thought, God, what do you do with all that? And they said, well, you know, it goes in the bin. And I didn't really sort of think about it too much. But then COVID came and I was bored at home. There's only so much gardening and cleaning and sorting out your spice rack, you know, that you can do. So that wouldn't go away. And I just started just fiddling with Google and what is this problem and how does it impact the environment and what are people doing about it? And I just became fascinated by it. And I had a friend at the time who was, she had her own shop and she was making beauty products. And I said, you know what, we could make some body scrubs from the coffee grounds. And that's how it actually started. And I went into business originally with her. Right. And it was very limited. We had 3 body scrubs. This is, you know, talk about basic, and a few bought in products. And then unfortunately that relationship did not, you know, continue.
So you had the idea, it sounded great.
Yeah, it sounded great.
Jumped into business and then you realised it is great, but there's more to this.
There's more to this, and I can't work with this person who I thought I knew but didn't know.
You see, that's another interesting dynamic. Yes. So you can be friends with somebody, you can even be family.
But you can't work with them in business.
You start working with somebody and you think, oh, hang on, this is more difficult to say the least. So
that was hard. I literally had to tackle that. That was something I didn't feel very comfortable about. But we parted our ways, only because, but she was so interesting. She was waiting for me to do that.
Ah, right.
And I realised that I would have to broach it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't equitable. Even though we were in the business 50-50, it was 80-20. And that was annoying me. And, you know, and I couldn't grow the business the way I wanted. And there were certain blocks here and there. I wouldn't go into details, but ultimately I tackled it and we decided to part ways. And so I set up the business again with me, just me, and that was 21 then.
2021. Before you did that though, before you got bored during COVID, you did other stuff.
Yeah.
So when you retired, I think, from the National Health Service, you had a bucket list like a lot of other people. Yeah. And you did some good things, didn't you? So you went climbing in Africa, is that right?
Yeah, we did. So we walked Kilimanjaro. We're as a family, we've done a lot of walks. Craig much more than me. I mean, he's done some amazing mountains and things. I'm not a climber, I would say I'm a walker. But yeah, so we decided with Joe, because it was before he was going to uni, so he was 18, 19 at the time, that we would climb Kilimanjaro. We raised funds then for the Woolwich, which was the homeless charity that I became a trustee of. I'd worked the Woolwich a lot during my professional career. So yeah, that was an amazing experience. And then I did a few TV quiz shows, Tipping Point being one that I happened to win.
Well done! Going to fame!
And The Chase.
Fantastic!
Because I love quizzes. What else? Puffins. I went to see Puffins.
Skomer Island.
Skomer Island. We bought a cottage up in North Wales because we visit North Wales walking, etc.
And that was a project, was it?
That was a project. We renovated that. It's a holiday home now. I did all the national 5,000 peaks. I don't know. Tick, tick, tick,
Lots
tick.
of outdoor stuff.
Lots of I love the outdoors. So, and then I wanted to be a trustee of the charity, which I did. And then, and I spent a bit of time volunteering. Yeah. So people were worried about me when I retired because they thought my identity was so wrapped up in my job. But I knew it wasn't. I was ready to go. I just knew I was ready to go.
Well, that's self-belief and confidence, isn't it? There was, you may not have known at the time what it is you wanted to do, but you suddenly had this freedom.
Yeah.
Your son was growing up, you had retired from the NHS, you've got freedom, your world is changing, your life is changing, you find yourself a new partner. Maybe Dr. Rosie's time.
That's how I thought of it, you see. So it was literally, I could never have done all those things while I was working.
Of course.
Certainly not a trustee. I had no capacity to take on any other sort of roles. So it was definitely for me when I retired.
Well, well deserved. 30 years of hard graft, and during that time, very quickly as well. I think your dad had passed away, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And your mum, back into your world, she started to become unwell with depression and anxiety. So you had to manage that as well.
Yeah, and it was hard because she lived in Northampton, so I was back and forward a lot. And again, that is one of my regrets. And you know what? I should have just said, I'm taking time off to care for my mum. And I never did. I just would go back and forward at weekends, take Jo, so she would have some company. And it was loneliness because my dad had died and my mum was she was lost.
I get it, Rosie.
And it was hard, really hard to see that. And again, I don't think I'll always carry that with me, that I don't feel I did enough.
Well, I think we all carry guilt.
There's
a timeline, isn't it, to our lives? And if we're lucky enough to live long enough, we see us sort of, growing, flourishing, doing great things. And then our parents' journey may be sort of taking an opposite trajectory. And then you get to a point where maybe one of them goes and one is left behind and you do your best. And then I know, because I've lost my dad as well. And then you constantly sort of question whether you did enough. I do anyway.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I think people tell me it's normal. I better.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to your... you said you were going to be okay. You said that you had this freedom, you had this passion to do something. You found something with coffee grounds. The first attempt at making that into a business didn't quite work out. This is where the resilience kicks back in. Rather than just saying, right, I'm done with that and move on to something else, you thought, I'll maybe do a bit more research, look at this through different lenses. And I guess what came out of that, I suppose, is grounds for good.
Yeah.
So tell us about the next chapter in that entrepreneurial journey then.
I think the turning point was, I was always generating ideas what to do with coffee grounds.
That's what entrepreneurs do.
Yeah. So I'd researched completely. And then what I would do is, I didn't want to repeat what other people were doing.
Sure.
So I would know about the science behind it, and then I could flip it. I think, well, if it could be applied to that, then we could apply it to this.
Okay.
And so I started looking at it being incorporated into food and drink.
Interesting.
And so many of our products are entirely new to market. There's no competitors. So I think where we parted ways, I was going more down the food and drink rather than the beauty sort of products, which, to be fair, other people are already and have already doing. So the first product we launched then was a gin with coffee flavouring in, balanced with others. And then soon after that came a vodka, some chocolate, some oil, some preserves. And so we've grown the brand, the product list year on year.
And you're collaborating with other partners to do this, like the distilling process with gin and vodka.
So I think that is the model that has worked for me. So although there's a middleman, so to speak, I can get product to market very quickly because I'm not making it myself. I come up with the idea, I approach another business that I think shares my ethics or that they've got a good reputation, etc. So hence the Castle Distillery, for instance.
Great local example, isn't it?
Yeah. And all the businesses, all my products are made by local, either make them myself or they're outsourced to other local Welsh businesses. And I'll only source anything outside of Wales if I can't do it in Wales. So that's part of the model, the business model. As I said, I use their expertise, their equipment, because if I try to set up a distillery,
huge capital cost.
Absolutely, on my own, with no experience. So I use their skills and experience.
And that's working for you.
Yeah. I mean, there is a cost to have that middle person. You have to factor that in. Your profit margin isn't going to be so great, but then I would never get those products out otherwise.
Absolutely. Now, you distribute those products through various outlets.
We do.
Clearly down in Hensel as well. So give us a flavour of what's in the product range outside of food and drink as well. And where would we find these different things that you...
So we started off as online. We have a web shop, and that has continued. It's difficult to drive traffic to that web shop for those sort of sales. We've recently... One of our food products is on Amazon, and we're hoping to grow that on Amazon. We're on another couple of sort of marketplaces, as they're called, Food and Drink, Artisan Food Club, Good Food Scout, etc. And then we have recently opened our own retail space in Barry, in the Good Shed. So all our products are there, food and drink and homewares. And as you said, then we retail out to garden centres, food shops, delis, hospitality, bars, restaurants, hotels. So we're growing that all the time. And we're with a couple of wholesalers, so quite big ones in Wales.
And I say well done, and I don't mean that in any patronising sense, because I know from my own experiences, when you have an idea, a seed of an idea, and you believe in it, and you want to turn it into a proper business, then without huge investment, it's difficult, it's challenging. And also the research that goes into that. If it's not something that you're 100% familiar with in terms of distribution, networks, marketing channels to drive traffic to websites, etc., it's a challenge.
Oh my God, what a learning curve.
I can imagine.
I never knew what an SEO was.
You do now, though, don't you?
Or a CTA, or, all this lingo. People would say it in conversation, and I'd have to go away because I didn't want to ask and look silly. I'd go away and look it up because I didn't know what they were. Yeah. Seriously, and you know what? It's just as well, because I think if I'd have known what how much I needed to know, I'm not sure I would have done it.
Yeah. But you did.
And I did.
There's lots of ideas, it's not about me, but there's lots of ideas that I've sort of come up with in the past. Some worked, some didn't work. But even when people said, I don't know, there's a bit of a sort of bloody-mindedness and doggedness. Sometimes some people say you can be reckless. But if you genuinely believe that you've got a seed of an idea that you think you can make it work, then even when people tell you no, you do it anyway. Yeah. And that's the risks that entrepreneurs take. And
it is.
If you've got a passion for what you're doing, you clearly have.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is the journey looking like over the next sort of 2 to 3 years?
Yeah.
What's your
growth? It's just got to be growth. But that depends on turnover, which isn't there yet, and profit then, obviously. But yeah, the whole idea of opening up the retail shop is obviously to try and get money in, exposure, but turnover, cold hard cash. I've invested in this business entirely on my pension, basically. So there's a huge responsibility because although it's mine, there's still an inheritance component to that. And as my son said to me, Mother, please don't give all your pension away to the homeless. So that's a reminder that my son is expecting something from me. But I don't intend for that to happen. So the idea is I can grow this business over the next couple of years, get to a position where obviously can employ staff. Yes. People to do all the jobs that I don't like doing. And probably do it better than me, because you can't be an expert at everything. I'm the ideas person. I'm the R&D person. I'm loving the new product development and getting it out there, the branding, etc. I don't mind doing the social media. What I hate is the accounting, the business plan, all of that, which has to be done. It has to be done. It has to be a sustainable business, as in economically, as well as in what we're trying to achieve. So there's still a huge amount to be done, and I'm aware of that. And we're only really at the start. I think I've had a few health challenges, so I'm not where I would have wanted to be. Mm-hmm. We're into year 4 now. Last year we started to get some traction, and I was really hoping last year would have been a better year, but then health things kicked in.
Never give up. Is if you genuinely believe in your own heart that this is something that can work, and you're clearly an intelligent person, done a lot of research, you've had enormous learnings already in this process. Now, if anybody can make it happen, you will, I'm sure. Now, your product range, I've had a quick look online. There's a whole array of different things on there, isn't there? From rapeseed oil, from gins and vodkas and egg cup holders, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So I can see where the ideas are flowing from. All credit to you,
Thank you.
sort of coming up with that. Because you can have process, but you've got to have an idea at the first instance.
Yeah.
And then you figure out what those processes are going to be, and then you bring people into your organization to help you grow and succeed. But you've got to have the ambition, you've got to have the mentality and the drive, and you've got that in abundance.
Yeah.
A couple of quick fire questions for you. Book you're reading at the moment?
I'm not. And you know what? I love books.
Okay.
But again, that's a little bit of a luxury, sadly. So yeah, I'm not reading one.
Another easy question for you then. Surprised about the books, but there we go. Best gig you've ever been to?
Oh, Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, Black Eyed.
Yeah. They were phenomenal. Yeah.
Where was this and when was this?
This was in Birmingham in a small little venue because they don't do big venues.
Yeah.
This was probably about 2 or 3 years ago with Joe and my sister-in-law, and it was amazing.
Rock and roll.
It was brilliant. Yeah.
Couple more for you. You've talked about bucket lists. Just one thing left on the bucket list that you'd like to do.
Travel. There's got to be more travel. I absolutely love traveling. Yeah. And Japan.
Well, that's Acton, Burton at the moment with the rugby union. Wales are playing Japan on tour very shortly. And final question. Your daily non-negotiable.
That's hard. I don't know how to answer that because my days are so varied. Honestly, it's so varied.
Well, let's keep it at that because having variety.
There you go. Yeah, that's why I love my job. As in my previous career, every day was. I might have a diary with stuff in. Every day was different. Something would crop up, and I like that.
Brilliant.
And my days are like that now. I have a diary with stuff in, but there's always other stuff going on. So,
Dr. Rosie, I'm probably the only person on the planet that calls you Dr. Rosie. But I think it's great, and you're happy for me to call you that.
Oh, I am.
Thank you for coming along today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's a fascinating story. It's been a really difficult and emotional story for you at times, but you've carved out yourself a brilliant career. You've clearly got a brilliant son, and you're a brilliant mum. And here you go again. You're now that entrepreneur who's created this new chapter in your life. And I can't wait to see how it progresses over the weeks, months, and years ahead.
It'll be a tome.
Thank you for coming along today.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.